A very good evening and warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Norman Goodfellows. Welcome to another week and welcome to some celebration, not just of a sporting sort, and wasn't it a good weekend of rugby and cricket in particular, but celebration of competition of a slightly different variety. In fact, not just one, but two competitions. It was the Best Sommelier of South Africa competition over the weekend at Harsendal, where some outstanding sommeliers came together and were put through a brutal test, the details of which we shall reveal shortly, to work out who was worthy of the title of Best Sommelier for this year. And when I say it was some great sommeliers, it really was some top talent involved in the semi-finals and then the final. In the end, it was a relative veteran of the industry, although he's very youthful in terms of everything he approaches. Jean-Vincent Ridon was named champion sommelier for the year, followed by Laurie Cooper, you would have seen on the show not that long ago with our live broadcast from Strauss and drinking some fabulous old French and Australian and American wine. And Tapiwa, Jamu, came in third place. We've got all three of those sommeliers as we look not just at the competition itself, but the importance of the sommelier industry and some of the exciting developments, because there's been a lot happening. People like Spencer Fondomia are doing a great job in lifting the profile of sommeliers and getting more people in to the sommelier community. It looks like it's going well and exciting, but we'll get our sommeliers themselves to give us their thoughts on the space. And then Krister joins us from Star Wine List. You may remember he was with us a year ago as the Star Wine List took the world by storm. He's back. They've had their latest release of star performers. There have been some South Africans who did rather well, led by Matt Manning and Culture Wine Bar. We'll get a reminder from Krister on how it all works and who has done particularly well. So all that is coming up on the show today. Great sommeliers and the architect of a really innovative and exciting look at rating wine lists from around the world. All that in just a moment. First up, though, some wine news. Now, this is going to be a really, really good evening. This is happening out at Brookdale Estate, and the chance to catch up. In fact, no, is this Brookdale Estate or is this the one at Culture? It's one of the two. There's a lot happening with Brookdale at the moment. I think this is the one out at Brookdale itself. It's a wine dinner that's happening to. It's a winemaker's dinner. That'll be the 28th of September. The bistro at Brookdale's been getting some great reviews. And for $795 a person, you've got a 5-course dinner. Gary Kutsia, you'll see him there bottom right, is cooking some terrific food at the moment. I think lionfish sashimi with a Thai coconut dressing, or duck roulette with kitaifi, or a rabbit tortellini with parmesan wafers and saffron cream. Food that's got a bit of excitement to it, but not overly complicated. Just really good, solid, fun cooking, and all of it paired with the wines of Chiara Scott. And she is making sensational wine at the moment. Been getting a lot of very strong reviews from the UK wine press. And in fact, I served some of her Syrah at a blind tasting at the IMC conference on Friday. A lot of people were very excited, both by the wine and by her story. They're both terrific, but it is the wine that really does define her as one of our most exciting young winemakers. So Food and Wine, 28th of September. Head over to the Brookdale website if you'd like to be part of that night out. Now, this is Johannesburg and the 11th floor. I've spent a couple of very nice evenings at the 11th floor, and this is a night out with Holden Mads. Gerard Holden himself will be in town, Big G, for the food and wine experience. Reservations at the 11th floor.coza. It's 1,150 Rand per person. Some really good cooking there as well, and Gerard's wines, which are always bold and belligerent, much like Gerard himself. Getting quite a lot of awards at the moment. Gerard is doing very, very well for himself, and Holden Mads will be showcased on that evening. So you've got the reservation details there. If you're in Johannesburg, this is in Bedford View, if you feel like a great night out of food and wine. Reciprocal Wines having their annual tasting for 2023. This is the first week of October if you are keen to go along, hang out with Michael Fridon and his team. It's their international wine selection. It's either the 4th or the 5th of October at Reciprocal at Pilrig in Parktown. It's 545 Rand a person or 995 Rand per couple. And you get the price of that back if you buy a certain amount of wine. And you can book there through the Reciprocal wine website. And they've got a lovely selection of wine and some really interesting stuff from around the world, especially if you're looking to build up a bit of a Burgundy or Bordeaux or Rioja or Tuscan collection, stuff that's eminently affordable and can give you an introduction as you find your feet with the wines of Europe. And back to Chiara. Gee, she's being busy. This is the other one. This is Grub and Vine with Matt Manning, whose name will come up a little later on in the show. Your chance to join Chiara and the team at Culture in Bree Street for a 5-course menu, and the wines of Chiara Scott, her Mason Road Rosé, kicking off those 5 splendid courses. And there you just need to head over to the Culture website and book yourself a spot. That's also going to be a terrific night out. Lovely food from Matt Manning and the great wines of Chiara Scott. All right, so there we go. Put all those ones in the diary. Lots of great food and wine events on the horizon. And when you get to those particular ones, you will find the attention to detail. Each of those venues is exceptional, in no small part because they've all got some terrific sommeliers. That's a big focus of today, sommeliers and wine lists on the back of the Best Sommelier of South Africa awards and competition and the Star Wine List. So let's charge straight in with 3 world-class sommeliers and somebody who knows his way around a wine list or two. Krister joins us from Star Wine Lists, and then Jean-Vincent Ridon, our new champion sommelier of South Africa. Laurie Cooper, the runner-up, and then Tapiwa Juma joining us as well. Guys, warm welcome to all of you. Lovely to have you on the show. Krister, welcome back. Great to have you. Jean-Vincent, félicitations.
I think we lost you, Dan. Should I take over the show and talk on your behalf? Hello, so I'm Dan. It's very nice to have you all around. We're waiting for the host today. That's the point of being a sommelier, is when something bad happens on the floor, you have to jump in and save the situation. I don't know if my colleagues can hear me.
Well, there we go. Jean-Vincent, I think I've got you back. So welcome, guys. Apologies, that small technical there. Jean-Vincent, congratulations, first of all. There's not much you haven't done in the world of sommeliering, if one can use that as a verb. Where does this triumph over the weekend sit in terms of your wine achievements over the years?
I don't know. I'm like the senior of the sommelier profession. But I came to South Africa as a winemaker, and like Laurie, we both train winemakers, which helps us a lot being sommeliers. So for me, when I decided to move more toward the sommelier world after 20 years making wine in South Africa, the goal was to one day get this title. So yeah, I'm extremely happy to have bagged this title. I've tried 3 times before. It was my 4th participation. I've been finishing 3 times second. And so I can now retire from competitions because we only can get the title once in our life. And to comment on what you said earlier, the title is not for 1 year, it's for 2 years. So for 2 years, you will have me as the champion in South Africa until Tapiwa or Laurie or someone else get the title in 2025. But for me, it's been really, I'm super happy. It's like complementing my full work on wine from winemaker, viticulturist, chef, because I used to have my restaurant when I was younger in France, and sommelier. I think I got now the full things together. Yes.
Run us through this competition, because if somebody of your magnitude as a sommelier, and if you don't know Jean-Vincent Ridon, you're kind of talking of the Lionel Messis of sommeliering. That's just kind of Jean-Vincent's place in the sphere of the sommelier world. This can't be an easy thing to win. It's a very, very demanding competition. Talk us through how it worked at the weekend, what the challenge was, what sort of things you needed to know or to deliver to convince the judges that you were top dog.
It's, whatever experience I have and whatever I've done before, I think on the day of the competition, all the semi-finalists were completely equal to each other. And yes, it requires some ability to deal with your nerves, because as many times I've been competing, I was shaking, serving my wine. And I think all of us were. It all started the day with a semi-final when we had a very hard theoretical paper to fill, and asking question anything from food, restaurant, sake, and some questions that I'm not even sure I understood yet. And then we had 2 wines to analyze and compare. It was a Pinot Blanc, a white Pinot from Germany, and a Chardonnay from South Africa, putting it back in perspective in terms of pricing and everything. And then we had some practical tasks, which consists in identifying some beverages. We had a service to do was service of wine in cans. And any sommelier competition always try to be on the edge of what is new. We have to stay relevant. We're not a frozen profession. So we have to be able to adapt to modern clients. And the same in the final, the clients had to be vegan clients. So we had to explain them that our wine was not necessarily vegan, and the food, we had to cater a special menu for them around their limitation as vegan people. It can sound so easy seen from outside, and when I looked at the videos, it seems easy. But Tapiwa, Laurie, and myself can tell you that the time constraint, the stress of being in front of our peers, played a lot against us. And like for a few seconds, I completely forgot we've been asking to make a cocktail, and I completely forgot the ingredients of that cocktail. And then one of the label was very white and was written only in Afrikaans, and my Afrikaans is very poor. So I couldn't identify the wine at first sight. So I selected the wrong wine. Therefore, within the 4 minutes, which I have to serve 2 wines as a service, I had to work twice faster to make sure I could finish my task in time. And I think I finished like 1 second before the end of my time, but it could have been a catastrophe. And luckily, I saved it. But the point on the day is not how good you are, it's how you can manage the stress compared to the other candidates. Because we are all great sommeliers. All the semi-finalists were people with experience, with great presence on the floor, great wine knowledge. So you need a bit of luck too.
There may have been a touch of luck, but there's also a great deal of skill and experience coming through there. Not just with Jean-Vincent, but with the rest of the competition. Laurie, congratulations as well. Runner-up. How did that match expectations, and how tough was it for you this weekend?
Thank you, Dan. It was tough. There was definitely, I think the tasks were not what was expected. I certainly wasn't expecting to get 5 beers to identify. But you go there to be challenged, and every time I was first in the semifinals, and I walked out of there and I said, there's no way I'm making the finals. And then slowly everyone comes through and they all say the same thing, and then you realize we're all in the same boat. And if it was easy, we wouldn't be doing it. So it's always good to be challenged. And Joe Wessels, who set many of the tasks, obviously being on the world stage and came 7th in the world, he had some fun with us.
There's a slight grimace as you say that. A challenge indeed, but an important one, not just for you guys to test yourselves, but also for the industry as a whole. How much do you think having this kind of competition, having this platform means to our South African wine industry?
It's so important. And I think, JV will be able to talk about the first competition back in 2016. I wasn't part of it, but I believe it if you compare it to what we had this past weekend, it has come leaps and bounds, just in terms of the tasks, of the sophistication, the education, the contestants. So we really are growing, and it's more looking forward to how we can compete on an international scale, that hopefully with the right team, the right education, a huge amount of funding that's gone towards these last competition, Mike Ratcliffe, IWC, to be able to put us up there on an international stage and really raise the level of wine service in South Africa globally.
And is that reflected from your perspective in kind of the general understanding of an appreciation of the sommelier role, both from the industry, as in more restaurants, more hotels taking the sommelier space seriously, and then the South African wine consumer? Are they realizing the value of a sommelier when they go out to a better restaurant, a better establishment, and using what is an extraordinary resource if you do tap into it?
Well, I hope so. I do think there's still a huge myth that a sommelier is just someone who, opens your wine and tries to sell you an expensive bottle. So these competitions do raise that awareness of just how much more it is, as JV said, whether we're testing it on sake or beer or serving wine, out of the can. It doesn't always have to be completely pretentious either. But it's all about exactly that, trying to make people more aware of the role of sommeliers, the importance of it. I do think our market is maturing hugely. And I do think South Africa is really, as I said, it's suddenly maturing to a point where our wines internationally are really, really respected. And with that, everything gets raised. We have incredible restaurants, the whole service side of things, the international guests. I do think it's time now where the role of the sommelier is coming into play. And we are seeing with these competitions, with increased quality and awareness and education, that hopefully that will just go up and up.
Well, there have been a number of factors that have pushed the profile of sommeliers. One of them is a movie that we actually saw glimpses of Jean-Vincent in a little earlier, and that was Blind Ambition. And the headline quartet in that documentary were 4 Zimbabwean sommeliers. Now, the Zimbabwean magic continues, because rounding out the top 3 in the sommelier competition was Tapiwa, Jamu, Tapiwa, Makorokoto Sekuru. Wonderful result. What is it about Zimbabwean sommeliers? What's this magic touch? There's something in the water in Zimbabwe, perhaps.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to congratulate JV on the well-deserved winning. So I think with us Zimbabwean sommeliers, I think we are ambitious, number one, and also we are open-minded to learn new things. Zimbabwe have been so far behind in terms of everything, but with the movement of people from Zimbabwe to South Africa and discovering new things, we are open to venture into those things. So we come full force. That's why you see us popping in almost everything.
And very happily so, and with great enthusiasm, and also usually with great stories, because the majority of the Zimbabwean sommeliers, there's certainly a small army of you now in South Africa, don't come from traditional wine drinking, wine growing backgrounds. Many only discovered wine when they came to South Africa. Is that a similar story for you, Tapiwa? How did you find your way into the wine industry?
So with me, it's my story is same as everyone else, where we don't have a background with wine. I know Zimbabwe used to produce wines at some point in life, but that just vanished all of a sudden. But we don't have a drinking culture, if I may say so. But for me, it was just through curiosity when I was working as a gardener. Like I said to the people, that when I was working at the gardener, at one of the days, I had some people commenting about wine in the wine cellar. And after the wine tasting, I had to go through the bottles that they throw away to just try to smell if I can smell those strawberries from those wines. I couldn't. To cut this, my stories long, but for me, when I was moved to the restaurant, because I have this curiosity to learn, okay, what do they do here, and all those stuff. So I learned very quickly. And before I knew it, I was doing my Cape Wine Academy. Then I also did WSCT, and also the with the Sommeliers Academy with JV. So I think my story is not as different to any other story. It's only the spark where it starts that makes the just a little bit different.
Well, it's a story that's got another wonderful chapter added to it as a result of this weekend. Top 3 finish in Best Sommelier of South Africa. What does that mean to you, Tapiwa, and how important is it to you in your career?
Sorry, my network just froze a little bit. I didn't hear you, Danny. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. The chapter that you've now added to your story with this top 3 finish over the weekend, how much does that mean to you? How important is that to you in your sommelier journey?
This is quite huge for me because when I wrote the quarterfinals, I didn't think that I will make it to the semifinals. But when I see that I made it to the semifinals, it was a huge achievement for me. Looking at the caliber of people that we had in the semifinals, you look at JV, who is the head educator of sommeliers, Laurie Cooper, wine educator, winemaker as well, with the guys like Ralph, who is also the head som at Aubergine, Stefan, and all those guys. It's the top guys in the industry. For me, just being among them was extremely for me, and I really enjoyed being among these top guys, but also to be named among the semi-finalists, for me it's just something that is huge, and it's something that I'd never thought in my weirdest dream that I will be ever been in those semi-finals. When we get to the semifinals, the theory paper for me, I start with a theory paper which was extremely challenging. Of course, it has to be challenging. Then the service side, like what JB has already indicated as well, which was, but I did enjoy, because for me, this competition, they are also a learning curve. Besides being a learning curve as well, it also give you the indication of how far are you with this wine and beverage, where you are standing, and you see what's your weaknesses, what your stronghold for me. So I really enjoyed it, and it really give me a little bit of attention, let me, if I can put it in that way. And also a lot of people came through as well who wanted to help. Oh no, if you need something, you can reach out. If you need, maybe we do some wine testing groups, you can reach out. I've got these materials that I don't use anymore, even if I am not studying WSET level 4 yet, but I've already had some people who say, nah, we can give you some materials if you want. So for me, it's really important that I was in this competition as well.
It's a competition that many in the industry are watching closely. The Cape Wine Academy watching the show at the moment. Congratulations, JV, Laurie, and Tapiwa. Well, if you've got the Academy's blessing, then you're clearly doing something right. There was also blessing from the Star Wine List, because I know Krister and team were watching this very closely. What did you make of this particular challenge, Krister? And from a global perspective, how important is this kind of competition?
Yeah, thank you very much. It was inspiring to see. There was clearly a very tough semifinal, but very well organized. We were super happy to be invited by Sasa, and also Wosa, bringing a lot of our friends from around the world. Difficult one, and the stress levels, of course, we recognize. But what you said, Tapiwa and Laurie as well, brings back memory from the best sommelier of the world in Paris back in February. A good friend of mine, Reese Choi, top sommelier from Hong Kong and China, came up to me after the semifinal and said, "Okay, I really messed this up. Can we just go and have a drink?" He thought it totally blew his chances in the semifinal, and I think that's one of the reasons he was so surprised on stage when he went to the final. So I think that's a bit universal. You think you're not doing it. Congratulations to all of you. Well done.
It is a very big part of having a successful establishment, top sommeliers, but you also need a wine list to go with it, which brings us rather nicely into the star wine list. A year ago, we got to discuss this with you. For people who weren't watching that particular show, give us a reminder, Krister, what is the star wine list? How does it work?
Yeah, thank you. Star Wine List is quite simply a guide for wine lovers to find great places to drink wine. All the way from small natural wine bars to bistros and fine dining. It's an app and a website, and you can check it out. And all the recommendations are made by wine professionals. So usually sommeliers, sometimes wine writers. And we have recommendations now across the world, from Cape Town and Joburg to South Korea and New Zealand and everywhere. So check it out.
It's one I've used on a regular basis. It's a great tool, especially when you're in a new city and exploring somewhere. I've had great fun with it. The process is not a small one. You've got a lot of information that comes together to give people such a wide-ranging picture of their wine options depending on where they are, and including those that have done particularly well, which brings us to the most recent awards. Those have been announced. What were the highlights?
Yeah, thank you. So the guide is spreading across the world. We're in 36 countries now, and then we've also launched our awards, which celebrates really the great wine lists and the teams behind them. So we like to call it more of a celebration than a competition, because it's a bit like music. It's hard to compete with an art, which very much making wine lists and the work behind them are. But we came back this weekend to do it the second time in South Africa, and this time I said I'm not missing that, so I'm very happy to be back. And it was good to see entries coming from across the country. It's true that Cape Town was and the Winelands were heavy in the finalist and showing really well. And as you mentioned, the Bree Street Empire of Culture Wine Bar and Grub and Wine picked up quite a few trophies. And but we also had Aubergine winning for Best Long List, Elgar winning for Sustainable, and in Joburg, Saxon Hotel, Villas and Spa winning by the Glass. And as a newcomer, signature restaurant Umhlanga in Durban. So it's good to see some wins across the board there.
This gives some great focus to well-deserving establishments in South Africa for what they have achieved. Place that in a global context for us. We tend to be quite proud of what we have here. How justifiable is that pride? How well are our establishments doing? How good are those wine lists in the context of international competition?
Well, that's a good question. As I mentioned, we did this the first time last year, and Mark Almert, Best Sommelier of the World 2019, was a judge then and wanted to come back this year as well. Tawan Damarume was the judge both times, and both of them said that a lot of things had happened with the list last year, so people really paid attention, and I think it gives people a chance to look at inspiration from others and see what can I do, follow their own path as well. I think it's sometimes people ask, okay, what do I need to do to win? Should I just buy more wines? No, well, you can't just copy someone else. You follow your own ideas and hope that the jury sees it the same way. Internationally, we're running now on the coming tour, which started with this one in South Africa. We're going to have about 13 events coming up over Asia, New York, UK, etc., around the world in the coming year for the final in June. The last final in June, we held it in Stockholm. There was one win from South Africa, and it was a co-win for the Best Sustainable Wine List with Elgar in Cape Town. So that was a very strong mention from the jury. And of course, yeah, good showings from the other restaurants as well. But when you get up there, it's tough to compete with a the people in, let's say, New York and London who get access to anything they want.
The wine lists that we do have, I think Culture's a really good example. There's a lovely international touch. While South Africa does still take headline status, you'll find some English Chardonnay or an oddity from another part of Europe. When you sit down with your team, when the judges are going through, what makes for you guys a great wine bar? What's getting somewhere like Culture that Grand Prix? What defines that victory?
Well, the judges, so this time it was Raymond Thompson's, also world champion, Marc Almert, Julie Dubois, and Tawanda Marume. And first they rated themselves and then have a panel discussion or a jury discussion around them to see, to debate their arguments and see the favorites. And this time, I think the ones who had a bit more of international showing on the lists got a bit of an edge. I think because it's quite unusual for wine producing countries to look outwards very much. I mean, if you go to French restaurants, you'll have a lot of France. If you go to Spanish ones, you'll have a lot of Spain. So I think the judges saw that it was interesting and open-minded to have that angle here. Yeah, we just also mentioned that you get the younger hip producers, but also showing older vintages, which has been, I think, quite amazing and a rich treasure of South Africa to have, and have the classics from the country and showing that the terroir here can really age wines beautifully, just as well as in Rioja or France, and to have restaurants sharing that, it's really cool.
It's been a good stretch, I think, for wine bars in South Africa. Even Johannesburg's now got a few that we can rightly claim a world-class. Cape Town, of course, has a fair number. Laurie, for you as a sommelier, when you look at the Star Wine List Awards, you're seeing wine lists getting celebrated and acknowledged. We asked you the sommelier question. What about the wine lists across South Africa? Are you seeing this as being a space we're doing a little better? Are we being more adventurous, more exciting with what we're putting out on wine lists across the country?
Absolutely. And I think it is very exciting for me, especially to see one of the winners coming from Schlanger. So to see it spreading through Durban is always very exciting. But yeah, I think South Africa's been a little restricted in terms of things like the international wines that we get in. So to see that we are expanding, supporting obviously local is really important, but we are also catering to bring in some international wines, especially as an international educator myself. I find that really exciting. So I think awards like this just elevate a lot of our establishments, and they strive to do better and to really bring in a wider selection, which for everyone we're all going to benefit. So I think it's really exciting.
And it gives us more cool stuff to drink from exotic places around the world, like KwaZulu-Natal, for argument's sake. Give us an update on your particular winemaking and what's been happening of late.
Well, we, I believe, are about to have a La Nina year. So having had 2 of the wettest years in our history, we are extremely excited to finally get some warmth and sunshine, hopefully. So we're just about to kick off with Budburst for the next year, and we will see. You can ask me again, Dan, come February. But I'm hoping it is meant to be a drier year, which for us in KwaZulu-Natal, given that we have so much rainfall, is really, really positive. So hopefully we will see great things from Abingdon.
A place which, and I know before you bring it up, because you will, I've promised to come and visit. It is still very much on the agenda, especially if you've got some nice warm sunshine. Wine out of KwaZulu-Natal, wine from all over the world is popping up now. Tapiwa, how does that make it for you as a sommelier now, trying to go into a competition like this, knowing that they might have thrown at you some Peruvian Pinot Noir or some Pakistani Chardonnay? How do you manage to prepare for a competition like this? How do you train to understand where wine from around the world might have come from?
So For me, like what Laurie have already indicated, we have been struggling to get some international wines, but now we are seeing a little bit of improvement in some international wines. Here in Pretoria, you can actually get some Portuguese wines, which are increasingly being available in the bottle stores. Also, some Spanish wines. But I think for me, you never know what's coming, and you cannot test everything. But courses like WSET also helped with some of the international wines, and also besides testing them, but due to you read some wine books, WSET books, the Wine Bible, for instance. It gives you these books. They give you an indication what's a wine from, for example, Kenya would taste like. So if you get in a blind tasting, of course, it will throw you off because you never tasted it, but it will give you an indication in your mind, where is it from.
It is not an easy task, this. I get flummoxed with just general South African, and now there's wine thrown in from around the world. But it does broaden your horizons. And I think, Tapiwa, that's a really important element when we talk about on the show quite often when we have international wine producers, that in drinking wine from other parts of the world, it gives us a better understanding, a better appreciation and context for our own wine from South Africa.
Definitely, I do agree with that, because the more you taste some international wines, the more I feel with the market that we have in Pretoria, it's quite it's people who wants to drink what they know, but the role, that's where the role of the sommelier come to play. Then you try to guide them to explore some of these wines for from other countries. Then from there they will learn to appreciate the wines of South Africa, or else they will explore that. No, these wines taste better, or no, South African wines are better than this country's wines. So it's actually
That's good reasons to add some international wine to your wine experiences. Jean-Vincent, what of this exact event in terms of the results? The trophy, I think Mike Radcliffe was involved there. The kudos, the whole industry has been pouring in their congratulations. But does it lead to something? Do you now go to a world championship? Is there now a particular mantle? What does your new king of wine status confer upon you?
Yes, it's a bit undecided yet. I've just seen the press release showing what I've won, so I'm not really sure of what I've been entitled to. The point is, I might not compete for South Africa at the best international competition, because I had the chance already. I competed to represent the country in Vienna in 2017 at the best sommelier of Europe and Africa. Then before that was Gareth Ferreira. After that was Joe, and the place for the next one might be undecided. But I really want to focus on educating more through Sommelier Academy all the new generation of sommeliers. They cannot only rely on middle-aged men like me. We have to, nurture and grow a young generation like Tapiwas. And I can see South Africa is full of great talents, not only from Zimbabwe, but from South Africa. And that's the same what Laurie is doing in being an educator for WSET in KwaZulu-Natal. We all try with Cape One Academy, WSET, under the umbrella of SASA, to grow a next generation. And that's where sometimes we need a lot of funds that has been provided, so we can expose our candidates or our young sommeliers to these wines of the world, and more than that, make them travel to gain confidence by not only talking about Burgundy, but visiting Burgundy. And you can see how much the title of Best Sommelier of South Africa, or even competing. I was looking at the picture of 2016 first competition, and all the pictures all the sommeliers competing on that time, the majority of them are now in managerial position. Gareth Ferreira is Master Sommelier, is dedicated time to education with the Court of Master Sommelier Europe. It's great to see that we feel that we have now to help the others, and that's what I feel like. So the bursary and the grant and scholarships will help tremendously to achieve that mission, because it cannot only rest on the shoulder of one person. Now it's my time to give back and give the next generation the opportunity to travel the way I could travel, and eventually they're gonna earn their own space and own their own titles.
Which is a very admirable approach to take, Jean-Vincent. You don't need me to tell you that. The wine industry knows well how much you've put back into the space, which gives you so much joy and so much pleasure. Go back to when you very first started in South Africa. There's a massive change in terms of the sommelier space, not just how sommeliers are seen, but the sheer number of people involved. I'd like to think that that's still growing, that it's still heading in that upward trajectory. Is that a fair reflection of sommeliers in South Africa at the moment?
The reality is a bit more complicated than that, and it's good, because I can tell you that out of my best students over the last 2 years, more than 15 have been leaving the country. They're now working in Australia, in Canada, in England, in Germany, or on cruise ships. So unless the industry is helping us to train the next generation and offering better packages so they got some retention of our talents, we'll keep on being a net exporter of sommeliers around the world. Look at our best sommeliers ever, like Joe Wiedel, 7th best sommelier of the world. He works in Germany. Gareth Ferreira, 15th best sommelier of the world, works in 3-star in London. So we have the talents, and we need to give room to our talents to grow and to end up in managerial position, designing better wine lists so we can have more diversity at the Star Wine List Award, and show that South Africa has a great chef, has the great winemakers. We just need this great generation of sommelier to make the link, because people tend to believe, sommeliers, we're just wine people. But at that specific contest, almost 50% of the question were not about wine, were about every other beverages, about food, about cooking techniques, about everything you need to know. And that's why we need to expose the next generation to much more than just learning wine or appreciating wine, because your client in the restaurant, whether they come from Tokyo, Buenos Aires, or London, they want to experience South Africa. They don't want a lecture on South African wine. So the industry is growing, and I can see I got many students registering, and I got restaurants and hotels contacting me to send their staff for upskilling and training. It's going to be tough for the coming season, but that might be a wake-up call for our industry to realize that sommeliers are very often 50% of the bill. So we give the limelight to chefs and we make them superstars, but actually we pay the bills for everyone being in charge of the beverages. So we should not forget that. And I hope the F&B managers and the hospitality will understand the work that Sasa has been doing with Spencer, which is a wonderful drive. Spencer Fondomier is Sasa chairman, been creating a wonderful drive for education. And we really want that to continue. And I think all the sommeliers that were on semi-final, we all want to give back, and we need, you need more than one good sommelier per big restaurants. Look at what Vickers in Johannesburg has been such an inspiration for all the sommeliers working on the floor for his restaurant. That's a way to go, and it's going to be exponential, but we need the help of the industry. But we got talents. South Africa is full of talents. We just need to make them blossom.
It's a really upbeat analysis. It's lovely to hear. Let's place that in the context of the broader world. Krister, as you and your team assemble wine lists all over the world and celebrate the particularly standout establishments, how upbeat are you about the wine industry, given that we're seeing stories of France getting rid of 200 million euros worth of wine, and in certain countries there's consumption dropping. Are you upbeat? Do you feel that globally wine is still in a healthy space?
Oh, that's a big question. I've lived in France, spent a lot of time there, and France will always pull up things in the agriculture and get paid for that, right, Jean-Vincent? Just joking. I think the trend we see perhaps in countries like Sweden, where I'm based, is that people drink less in general, but hopefully drink better. So that, less bulk, less, alcohol, beverages just to be drunk, that it's, you spend more on quality instead. Goes to food and experiences as well. So I think there's definitely a chance and room for that. And I think that will stay. And I was talking to some wine trade people today as well, that, I've lived in France, as I mentioned, and I'm not as young as you, Jean-Vincent. So, come from a classical background, but I have a lot of friends who come from the natural wine world, and I love a lot of that. And I think it's all coming together. And I think perhaps the older trade need to be very, grateful that trend came along, because otherwise so many young people in many countries wouldn't have gotten interested in wine and into it, and then growing from there. So I'm optimistic that it's going to continue. And I'd like to also take the chance to thank you all and mention the hospitality of South Africa, which I think seems to be in the DNA, and also for the people coming in from Zimbabwe and France, like you, Jean-Vincent. I was up at the Marianne Wine Estate today in Stellenbosch, and I was just overhearing an older British couple, and the waiter asked them how did they like the trip, and they said, well, this is the best trip we've ever had. I can't believe we just waited 60 years to come here. And that's my feeling as well. When you come here, if you love food and wine, wildlife, nature, and people, and you just get an amazing time. So I think that's all set. And what JV says as well, to get more resources, training, education, and the framework around that. And there's every chance to just be world-class on many levels.
That's another reason to smile then. Thank you, Krister. Some great words of encouragement there. One final quick one for you, Krister. You've got all of these wine lists around the world. I had my annual pilgrimage to Greece in August, and the Athens wine bar scene is absolutely electric at the moment. South Africa has been given plenty of thumbs up, for which we're most grateful. What are the other cities that for you have got a really cool wine scene at the moment that would be worth visiting just for the quality of their wine bars and their wine lists?
Oh, that's a big question. Greece, as you mentioned, very cool. I think I haven't been there in a while, but Berlin sure seems to be happening a lot in our discussions. But I think it's quite universal what we see. If you're looking at Cape Town, where I've been now a couple of days, and I think the wine world is getting more interesting. It's certainly hopeless if you get into blind tasting wine, right? When you get the Kenyan Sauvignon Blanc and all that stuff in your competitions, Swedish wines, etc. But it's just so interesting. It just keeps getting more interesting in more and more places. We're getting feedback from restaurants in Reykjavik in Iceland saying they're getting guests thanks to Star Winist and Lyon, and people are just finding inspiration everywhere.
If you haven't already, and I'm not sure why you wouldn't, but jump online to whatever your app store of choice is and look for Star Wine List, especially if you've got any travel on the go. It is an invaluable asset for the wandering wine drinker. Laurie, for people who are watching in KwaZulu-Natal, I know you do a lot of work through WCT and through training and teaching. If people do want to get involved with wine, if they've got an interest in adding a bit of education to their love of wine, how do they do that? How do they get a touch of your magic to polish up their wine skills?
Yes, thank you, Dan. So we run the KZN School of Wine. So that would be the best place to start. And a range of courses, online courses, fun courses. If you just want to come, we do a day's course at Abingdon. So it includes a relaxed lunch and less of the pressure of an exam at the end of it. And then for those wanting the official WSET qualifications, we also run all of those. So KZN School of Wine would be the place to go to.
All right. And final one, what was for you, going back to the weekend, what was the single toughest wine to pick over the various ones you had in both the semi-finals and the final?
I mean, I think it's clear if you watch the show, not this show, the competition, the 3 spirits for me in 1 minute and naming the common denominator was in black glasses was very tricky. I think I'm not sure I even said a word.
You can go back and watch that online should you so wish. It made for compelling viewing. Tapiwa, what about for you? What was the one wine at Harzendal that even got a great sommelier like you completely confused?
No, for me it was the Pinot Blanc. I didn't even pick it because the words like JV say they were written in Afrikaans, and I didn't even know what was in there. So for me, it was the Pinot Blanc.
All right. I'm not sure if there's any Pinot Blanc on the wine list at Ivory Manor, but before we let you go, just give people a quick introduction. What can they expect, other than the 3rd best sommelier in South Africa, if they come to Ivory Manor? What's the attraction? What's waiting for them if they come and pay you a visit, Tapiwa?
So if you come to Ivory Manor, we classify ourselves as the wine harbor of Pretoria. Of course, we are moving towards to make it the wine harbor of Gauteng. So we have an extensive wine list, a beautiful wine cellar. We do tastings for anyone at any given time. We have our wine list also very diverse, from younger wines, entry-level wines, to those top range wines. And also we do have a huge selection of older vintages. We go back as 1968 vintages. So it's the place where if you want to drink a wine as old as you can come to Ivory Manor.
And of course, you can get served by a podium finisher in the best sommelier of South Africa. Jean-Vincent, in closing, I'll ask you the same one I put to Laurie and Tapiwa. Was there one particular wine that a couple of days later is still giving you cold shivers as you think about it?
I think I've been like Tapiwa. It was a Pinot Blanc from Rheinessen on a limestone soil. I could not find it. I think nobody could even get close. We thought it might have been a German wine in the lineup, and so it was playing with our nerves and playing with our brain too, because it was conditional tense. And as far as my English is, it might have been none of the wine might be from Germany. So it's. I try to forget now. I remember we had to discuss a wine that was slightly fortified and like a sherry type, but that had a major flow in it to my taste. And I actually found the wine awful to drink, so I won't call about that wine. But I think what they wanted is to give our own opinion and as a sommelier, maybe to identify wines we should not buy. Because buying wine for sommeliers is always a cool part. We invited on wine estate, we build wine lists for restaurants, but we have to sell that wine. So if we make unwise purchases, we end up with a lot of pressure on our shoulder to turn this stock into a turnover. But yeah, I think it was thanks to Sasa for having made that difficult competition. We were all stressed equally, I think, on the final and in semi-final. So it was a very fair competition. And I think I was like Laurie. When I went out of semi-final, I said, okay, where is the registration form for 2025? Because that won't be this year. And that's the way it happens. A bit of luck, like I said.
Well, it culminated in a very, very well-deserved victory and a great celebration of the Sommeliers of South Africa. So in parting, Jean-Vincent, just for people who are watching this, we do get a lot of them who might be interested in either sommelier as a career or as an area of interest. What's the best way to have a crack at the industry and possibly get involved?
I mean, we have a great national association, which is the South African Sommelier Association. They organize certification and the competition, like the one we had. They are a member of the ASI, and they offer the examination of the ASI, the Association of International Sommelier. And I'm very proud to be part of that organization in charge of the exams for many countries around the world. Trust me, on the day of the competition, it doesn't help. And SASA will orientate you based on your level of the different ways. They might send them to Sommeliers Academy, which is a sommelier school which I run with a few other sommeliers in order to make the job or the profession of sommelier a real profession, not just a side work you do as a student. And in that sense, I'll move like star wine list, showing that when you got a sommelier on the floor, you will build a great wine list and you will get international recognition, and therefore you will get international clients that will boost your turnover. When I see both here, the number of sommeliers on the floor at Grub and Vine or Cellar or Culture Wine Bar, or even in Johannesburg, Lloyd is in charge of the wine list for the Saxon Hotel. He's been a great sommelier from Zimbabwean origins for many years in charge of the Saxon. And that pays. People go to that place. So if you want to learn the sommelier, we are on Sommeliers Academy. You can find us online on sommelier.co.za. And we've got online courses, we've got short courses, we've got long courses, and we can prepare for anything from wine service to competition on the world stage.
It's such a cool part of the South African wine scene at the moment. We've got such exciting sommeliers, and they are standing guard over such exciting wine lists, which means today's show has brought together two of my favorite parts of the industry. Grant Sauls is watching. Great show, Dan. Thank you, Grant. It was good to have you watching, and always good to have guests of this caliber on our show. So to Krister, thank you very, very much. You've added such a fun but also dynamic and interesting dimension to our appreciation of wine around the world. So much appreciated. The grand champion, Monsieur Ridon, finally you've got there, and not before time. Well deserved. And Laurie, it looks like you might be stepping into Jean-Vincent's shoes perhaps at the next World Championships. We'll definitely catch up with you before that, as and when that happens. And I think Tapiwa is hanging on there in the corner. Tapiwa, thank you. I look forward to getting out to Ivory Manor and seeing you out there soon. Guys, enjoy your celebrations. Thank you very, very much for being part of the show. Well done on your collective efforts. And happy drinking through the rest of the week.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for everything.
There we go. Krister looks after the Star Wine List, and in Jean-Vincent, Laurie, and Tapiwa, 1, 2, 3 at the Best Sommelier of South Africa competition that took place over the weekend. And if you've got some time, do go and have a look at that video if you didn't watch it live. There were some brutal decisions that were placed upon front of our sommeliers. So Jean-Vincent is every bit deserving of his trophy and title for this year. That wraps us up for this Monday. We'll be back on Thursday. And on Thursday, we head down to the Durbanville Valley, but not to Durbanville Hills or to De Grendel or the bigger estates that people know quite well, but some of the smaller Durbanville producers, as we put them in the spotlight and run through some wine that tells some great stories as well as delivering some great glasses. That's it for today. Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Norman Goodfellows. And I leave you with a reminder that if you are shopping this month, if you get some wine over the course of this month from Coinrock or from Norhoek, there's a really cool prize up for grabs, bringing together Q-Bar in Stellenbosch, Q-Bar in Rosebank in Johannesburg. A great night out awaits, and all you have to do is buy some rather good wine. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Congratulations again to our star sommeliers and our star winers. I'll see you live on Thursday with the very best of Durbanville. Until then, goodbye. This is Q-Bar Rosebank in Johannesburg. And this is Q-Bar in the heart of Stellenbosch. And one of these two will be the venue for you and a friend for an unforgettable evening if you win this month's competition with Norman Goodfellows. You'll be treated to welcome bubbles and incredible wine tasting with the world-class sommeliers at both Q-Bars. And you'll also have either a cheese platter in Stellenbosch or a sushi platter in Johannesburg, and membership of the exclusive Coinrock Members Club. And all you have to do to win this incredible prize during the month of September, buy any bottle of either Coinrock or Norhoek wines, with Q-Bar being the home to both, and you'll go into the draw for that fabulous prize and a Q-Bar experience you'll never forget.